What is going on, you handsome, virile devils, you? Welcome back to Grand Prix World. It's fantastic to be back, and this is going to be the start of something a little bit special. What does he mean by that? Well, you probably read the title already. I've stolen the wind out of my own sails there a bit, haven't I? Never mind. Um, we will be, at last, tackling the Minardi issue. Now, I know those of you who've been here since the beginning will remember back to those early days of the Arrows playthrough where I said I will not be doing it because it's robbing you of the greatest pleasure this game can offer. I stand by that comment, so before we go any further, this is a spoiler warning. I'm not making a graphic because frankly I'm too lazy, but it's a spoiler warning. So there you go. What you're going to see in this playthrough will remove the biggest challenges from your first season at Minardi. I'm not going to say it removes all challenge because that isn't true. Again, your team selection essentially amounts to your difficulty setting in this game, and Minardi is the hardest difficulty you can play on. There are other challenges to consider. However, I have received a lot of requests for this over mainly the last sort of 4 to 6 weeks actually. Again, very grateful. It's awesome you guys stay in touch. I do always like to hear from you, and especially as we've broken 100 subscribers recently, which I never thought would happen, or certainly wouldn't happen within the first 12-13 months. I thought I should give you what you want. The other reason is that a few Minardi playthroughs have started popping up on YouTube, on Dailymotion, on a few other places. I do scout around for Grand Prix World. You know, I enjoy watching people play it as much as I enjoy playing it. Most of them are very well presented and so on, but there is sort of this tendency to go for Minardi, and I've seen a lot of playthroughs now that make pretty fatal errors right at the start. And make no mistake, from round 1 it's possible to completely and terminally kill your playthrough. So I'm going to show you how to avoid that. We will be tackling all the same stuff as we did in the Arrows playthrough. The Arrows playthrough will be continuing. I'm going to do an episode right after this one. The only thing that's changing is the driver development program is on pause because, again, that's partly feedback from you guys. So I asked for feedback before we started. You guys said that you wanted to see the races, you wanted to see me commentate over all the sessions. We tried that, we've done the first round, and the feedback I'm getting now is the videos are too long. Now the problem is that I record this on a machine that's not great for editing video. So I need to work on a solution that enables me to record the full session like I was previously, and then switch it over to my more powerful machine where I can trim it and make it more palatable for you. So it's a good compromise, right? Because I did always say to you guys that we'd have 2 Grand Prix World playthroughs running concurrently because the Arrows one is at risk of becoming a bit dull, but you want me to see it through to the end. That's still going to happen, but now your second playthrough is going to be the Minardi one, and your old pal Benji Mac is going to take you all the way through to the championship with Minardi, hopefully. So step 1 is to open up something cold. I hope you're joining me in this. Cheers. Refreshing, and we will begin. I'm going to treat this, if you haven't seen the Arrows playthrough, this is the first video of mine you've seen, or if you've already watched the Arrows playthrough, let me reassure you, I'm going to treat this exactly like the Arrows playthrough. What you're going to get is a lot of tutorializing. We're going to talk how the game works, why I'm making the decisions I'm making, and what effect they're going to have. First of all, let's get an idea of scale. So we started with Arrows last time because they are my favourite team, or second favourite team alongside Minardi. 40 million was the budget we had to work with there, and you'll remember that things got a little bit tight. It was hard to keep both cars on the track. Minardi has a budget of $25 million. So not quite half, but we're well on the way. They also have a Frenchman with ridiculous hair in the test seat, which is not helping matters at all. But our old pal Shinji Nakano is driver 1, Esteban Tuero is driver 2. Both of those are pay drivers, and that's obviously going to be key to our survival. A lot of people, going to get this off the bat straight away, any playthrough that you see that tells you, well, as long as you get both seats filled by pay drivers, you're fine, is incorrect. It's also surprisingly difficult to get 2 pay drivers in your seats. So we have to be prepared for the fact that that might not pan out the way we want. Such is life, eh? Let's kick over to the dashboard. Again, I'm playing a German version of the game because that's all I could get my hands on from Germany, where I am living, and that. But I will hold your hand all the way through it and translate stuff that needs translating and everything. So, based on a few things I've seen, let's go over some real rudimentary basics really, really quickly. First things are staff, particularly team leads. These dudes. I see it all the time from people who are good at the game, people who maybe haven't played it before. Some guides written online have it, and it's incorrect. The idea that success hinges entirely on you getting the best person here that you can, it's not. So don't waste money hiring someone outside your budget. It's not worth it. What these people serve as is basically it works in tandem with the staff you have down here. So what you'll see is we've got the 5 levels of skill for your standard employees. Apprentices kind of get a pass because they're very cheap and their skill set within the class can be quite variable. You can get some star workers there quite easily who do work to a standard much higher than their pay grade. It's all about being efficient, and we saw that at Arrows as well. So our policy was to gradually upscale. We keep the apprentices because they're cheap and the quality of their work is, on average, more likely to be above their pay grade than at the other levels. And what you want to do is add staff until the capacity is full and then gradually phase out the poorer skilled staff in favour of higher skilled staff before you upgrade the size of your factory. In general, it doesn't always align that way because sometimes you need a factory update that maybe you can't wait to get your hands on for operational reasons. So you make that call as you go. Either way, point is, a lot of what your department produces is coming from these guys down here. It's good to have someone in the management role who can get the most out of the team, but the team still are the ones that do the majority of the delivery. And I always describe the head as almost like a multiplier. It doesn't quite work like that. It's not like a 5-star designer gets 5 times the level of work out of all the staff, because you've got morale to consider and it's not a direct correlation. But the point is, I have won world championships with a level 3 designer many times. It's not the only factor. Game crashing still an issue there. Sorry about that. So, we're back where we were. And just to summarise, you don't have to chase highly skilled team leads straight away. First things first, I'm going to give you an example. Now, we've talked in the Arrows playthrough about the Beteiligung, or the commission percentage that your commercial chief rakes in. When you go and extend a contract or sign a commercial team lead from somewhere else, you're going to have to improve on their contract 9 times out of 10. Not always. I'm not going to say that's a blanket rule. Sometimes you can play hardball. If you wait to the end of the season, you can negotiate quite hard with whoever's left. And some drivers and some team leads will even take a pay cut to come to you just to stay in the sport. But it's a very risky strategy to take. Now, what you'll notice is at the moment we have a pretty good deal. We have Gabriel Rumi here, who's taking 1% of all the contracts he negotiates and a flat rate of 128,000 US dollars. Now, we would have to up him to at least 2% and increase his pay in order to get him to stay. This guy's on 3%, this guy's on 1% and 80,000, so arguably we could probably get him on vaguely the same terms as Rumi, but again, probably for 2 or 3%. Jackie Oliver from Arrows would be a substantial pay increase, doubling his commission rate pre-negotiation, so we would still have to up from that. So the question you've got to ask yourself is, why would you do it? Because the guys on 3-star are by and large on 4-5%. Now, you saw the obvious anomaly there, which was Rob Armstrong from Stewart, who at this point only has a 2% commission and is on pay for 304,000. If you're playing a midfield team, he is my star pick here, because usually by season 2 you've got a little bit more liquidity and you can negotiate a 2-3 season deal with him with a relatively low commission, because commission is the real killer. It's not his salary, it's paying him the commission on all the commercial deals you do. However, we are Minardi, and we really don't want to, in season 2, be paying 304,000 plus over 2% to some dude. So that's where these guys come in, because at the end of the day, his skill is ultimately level 2, our current guy. These guys, Eva Manzoni, and I forget what the C stands for, I think it's Charles Aston. These guys are both cheaper, equally skilled, and will sign for 0% commission. So why would you bother signing anybody else? It doesn't make any sense. We're going to go for Eva Manzoni. First of all, she's Italian. That helps. Secondly, she's the cheapest person by far. And we can sign her for a 3-season deal and drop her at any time. I'm going to sign her for 2 seasons, I think. Just because I want to talk about some other elements. I'm trying to plan out how this playthrough is going to go and what we want to touch on as things progress, but we don't want to be stuck with her too long. I mean, what you could do also, again, a risky strategy, but you could sign her for 1 season and then upgrade to someone else the next season if you want, without breaching your contract. Or if it all goes wrong, you sign the other guy again for 0% commission, and at that point you've got a better idea of where your team stands. Now, I think what we'll do is we'll lock her in for 2 seasons, and we can ditch her if we need to. Make the offer. Of course she'll sign it because she's got no other offers on the table. Start in 1999, please. Done. So that's my first tip. Again, if we suddenly came into a bunch of money next season, we could dump her. It's no biggie, but there's no point wasting money. In fact, you can't afford to waste money playing as Minardi. We're going to come back to drivers in a little bit. Let's talk about your staff, you're hiring your staff. Again, you want to be spending no money. And that's not an exaggeration. This first season is going to be relatively boring to watch. I'm going to do it in the same style as the Arrows playthrough, in that you'll usually get two rounds per episode with no coverage of the race. I'll just simulate the race off screen. Now that does mean you might not get the best result immediately, but as with the Arrows playthrough, we're looking at the operational picture, not the racecraft. That's what the driver development program is going to be for developing your drivers and getting the most out of them on track. As with the Arrows playthrough, what I want to show you is how to run the team. And this is actually particularly relevant given how modern F1 is structured, because the days of the team principal are by and large gone, and you get situations like you've got at Williams, where Claire Williams is the acting team principal. She deals with running the business and allocating resources and managing the team. And then you've got Rob Smedley trackside, and he deals with the trackside operations. You know, he deals with making sure the pit crew perform their tasks. He makes sure the race engineers are engineering to the highest standard possible, and he makes sure that the on-track performance is where it needs to be. You never used to have that structure in F1, but now it's quite common. And so we will be taking on the Claire Williams role rather than the Rob Smedley role in this playthrough. Hopefully that's okay for you guys, but I really think that's the best way to learn how to play as Minardi. So, back onto staff. You'll be tempted to hire people. You really will. Do not do it. do not do it, because these sums down here really add up. For example, if we were to hire one expert in design, that's $110,000, and our current finances sit at $893,750. You can see how quickly this gets eaten away. We do have money coming in, and again, I want to touch on something, because some people who have played this game a similar length of time to me are going to look at this playthrough and say he's being a little bit overly conservative. That is true to some extent. Let me explain. So, as we've talked about before, you negotiate your sponsor contracts, and we'll take a look at the sponsors now. So, we're going to get 13.3 million from our sponsors this season, in theory. And in theory, we're going to get $831,250 per Grand Prix. In theory. Because the team is going to underperform, and no matter what you do, you are going to underperform because you have a bad car, you have bad drivers, you have bad morale, you've got all kinds of problems. That's where the difficulty comes in. You are not going to perform in a way that makes your sponsors happy, and they're going to begin withholding funds. What you can do is chase performance in your first season. Try and sneak yourself a point. I mean, it's almost certain you won't get one, but you can try and push to make sure you're not bottom of the pile in the Constructors' Championship. And then next season, you'll get a little bit of cash coming in. And that's perfectly viable. However, it's far more likely to fail than the strategy I'm going to show you. The strategy I'm going to show you is the strategy whereby you write off the first season. The best you can hope for, if you micromanage on the track and you develop the car and all that kind of stuff, is that you start getting some cheeky results where you find yourself in front of both Tyrrells, maybe battling with the Prosts. Maybe you really do strike it lucky and you develop the car quite nicely and you get lucky with attrition, and maybe you get up close towards 13th, 12th position. It can, in theory, be done, but the price of doing that is probably the survival of your team. And this is what captures most people out. The amount of posts I've seen down the years on forums discussing this game who say, I just can't get past the first season. It's because you have to play counterintuitively. The aim of any game is to win, and as I hope I showed you with the Arrows playthrough, this game requires that you think not just one step ahead, but 2, 3, 4 steps ahead. And it takes a while to learn that if you're not sort of given a heads up in advance. And the other teams have the financial shoulders and the sponsor backing to allow you to make those mistakes. Minardi doesn't have that luxury. You have to think, well, I am not going to win the championship in my first season. The only way I'm going to win a championship in the future is if the team is still around. So you're doing damage control. You are ensuring the survival of the team, and nothing more. Nothing more in the first season. Now come the caveats. Actually, I didn't finish what I was talking about. Your sponsors. So because we're going to be underperforming, you're not going to get all the money that was promised to you. It's just not going to happen. Now, if you can sort of keep an eye on how this chart progresses, Grand Prix by Grand Prix, you can play this game in a way that enables you to do some light testing and development on the car and survive by ensuring that you're not in the red for 2 consecutive races, because that's the qualifier basically for bankruptcy. If you end a turn in the red, you have to be out of the red by the end of the next turn. If you're very, very skilled, you can do that. And I'm going to hold my hand up and say I'm skilled at quite a lot of areas of this game, but that isn't one of them. The financial management is and has never been my overall strong suit. I tend to stockpile money in a way that means I'm not pushing as aggressively as I should, but my team survives, and a lot of people don't manage to survive 1 or 2 seasons as Minardi, so just bear those things in mind. I'm by no means the god of this game. There are variations of this strategy that you can play that will enable you to be a little bit more aggressive, to enjoy a little bit of racing action in your first season. However, they come with, to me, an unacceptably high risk that the team folds, and then your playthrough is over and all the time you spent micromanaging your races has been wasted. So, what's the caveat I mentioned? The caveat is in construction. You do need to hire people in the construction department. Why? Well, good question. I'm glad you asked it, voice in my head. Because we're going to be underperforming, the morale of the team will go down, and that means the efficiency, the production capacity of this department will in turn go down. And you might think, well, that's okay, it just means we can't put out spare parts or whatever. And that's true. I mean, you saw that we failed to keep the cars in 100% condition, totally race-worthy at Arrows in our first 2 seasons, I think. That was a problem. However, you do need to keep them running. And as you lose capacity to construct at each individual unit, you need more units to compensate. And you might think, well, I can squeeze through, you know, I can run my cars at the highest possible wear and just have some DNFs. Correct. And a lot of people do that. And then you come to the final few rounds of the season and you don't have enough capacity to build your cars, and there are no construction staff on the market, and boom, the team collapses. You have to sort of... You're running on a knife edge. The team is always on the verge of bankruptcy. Always. You will run out of money. You will have a very difficult time keeping the team operational, but you have to do it. And you can suffer in the commercial and the design and the mechanic department in your first 2 seasons. You know, we are going to design a bad car. We are just going to design a bad car. That's all there is to it. But we will build a car and we will be on the grid. And that's all we need. That's all we need. And from there we can build up and move on. So, with that in mind, we are going to take on some extra construction staff. And whenever construction staff pop up, I'm going to sneak in and grab them. That's it. You don't want to be hiring anybody else. You might be tempted to think, well, we could take a very good designer here for $70,000. No point, because you're not getting $70,000 worth of work out of him as the morale decreases. As the morale goes down, he becomes less and less effective. He's not worth what you're paying him. You might as well focus. If you hire anybody in the design department, pick up a few apprentices that you're prepared to fire later. Commercial, again, the temptation is to go chasing people. It's not worth it. It doesn't... By the time the morale goes down, it doesn't actually improve your chances of signing a contract. Construction's a little bit more tangible. There is a set amount of production units that produces a car. That doesn't change. Whereas there are a number of factors in a commercial deal. Synergy between you and the prospective partner, who else the prospective partner is talking to, how your on-track performance is. It's not just down to what the commercial team can produce. There's not like a defined finish line that you can easily see, because although it shows you what the partner is willing to offer and how many squares you have to fill to complete it, it doesn't show you how quickly those squares will fill, and they don't fill consistently. Hoping this makes sense. I'm sure you're smart guys, I'm sure you're keeping up. Right, next thing, drivers. We need pay drivers. We need 2 pay drivers. And as you may or may not know, signing 2 pay drivers is quite difficult. It's not impossible, but it is difficult. And the trick is to sign them both in the same round. Now, what you really need as Minardi is to sign 2 pay drivers at round 1. You can't piss about. You can't, allow those drivers to stay on the market too long, because they will get snatched up by surprising teams sometimes. I've seen McLaren and Ferrari pick up pay drivers for Season 2. It does happen. You can't afford to mess around. And if you can't get 2 pay drivers, or 1 very high-paying pay driver, then your playthrough is pretty much done. And that's something that is essentially up to luck. Another reason you have to sign them early is because your performance is not going to make you more attractive. You are at your most attractive to drivers at round 1 when you're playing Minardi. That's just the way of things. We are going to go for our old pal Pedro Diniz. We're going to give him... You have to give him an equal number 1 driver, first of all, or else you can't sign another pay driver. That's very important. We're going to give him the smallest race and championship bonus possible. We're never going to have to pay it, but still. And we're going to offer him a 3-season deal. Usually pay drivers like a lengthy contract. We need that $9.6 million. That's basically the size of... It's only $4 million off our entire budget for the team right now. You can imagine how important this money is. But also, again, like the aerospace, don't think that this money is going to solve all your problems. It doesn't. It just enables you to have a little bit of breathing space through which you can then begin to develop the team. The team will not survive the season without making money beyond what's already coming in, and I'm going to show you how to do that as things go on. There's a time to do it, and we will discuss that as things go on, but we're going to extend this contract offer to him. If he says no, it's not totally impossible to get him the next time round, but we'd be quite lucky. Okay, excellent. He's agreed to sign with us. Now, what we want to do is make sure we don't sign that contract right now. So you see, we've got an option on him now. We have that option. We want to back out, go over to the second driver's seat, and we need to find ourselves another paid driver. Shinji Nakano is a good option. 2.9 million isn't the next highest paying, but he is arguably one of the better drivers. Esteban Tuero brings in 3.7 million. He's also quite capable. Who are our other options? Toru Takagi is the second highest paying pay driver at 6.4 million, and then you've got 4.3 million from Ricardo Rosset. I'd rather not hire Rosset if possible because he's Ricardo Rosset. I'm gonna try for... Let's go for Takagi. We will offer him equal driver 1, same terms as that, and again we're going to offer him 3 seasons. Excellent, he's agreed as well. So, we back out. Sign him. Sign him, and boom, we've got no conflict. We got lucky there. I was kind of bricking myself a little bit, thinking this could go very easily wrong. I could have signed one pay driver and all the rest could have turned me down because of the contract terms or whatever. However, we got very, 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 very lucky here indeed, and I was able to display for you what I was trying to do. It's not impossible to sign a pay driver and then sign another one a few rounds later. However, it is incredibly common that pay drivers refuse to work together, and this is just a sneaky way around it. So there you go, there's tip number 1. Just a moment, I'm going to save the game because it's being a bit funny and we've already had 2 crashes. Okay, welcome back. We are all saved up and ready to go. Okay, moving on. We will try and see if we can't pick ourselves up a few bargains from the bargain bin. Who do I recommend to sign? Excellent question. If your aim is to try and go forward, and now we've got the pay drivers, we can spend a little bit more. Mike Gascoigne is the best value 3-star designer, and I'm a big fan of him. I believe he generally delivers quite well in this game. Doesn't often go backwards. Another good option is Osogoto from Sauber. However, he's more than twice the cost. We're going to try and get Big Mike for 2 seasons, and we will offer him 285,000. I'm guessing he's going to say no. Yeah, he did. Okay, so our other options are to retain Alperin or again, we take the guys that are non-F1. I'm not going to jump to do that right now, because I want to have another crack at Mr. Gascoigne, so we'll do that next round. In construction, Big Harv, Dr. Harvey Postlethwaite, he's your man. In terms of 3-star designers, he's the cheapest. He's also incredibly talented. He's one of my favourite F1 technical personnel peoples of all time. In this game, again, he tends to go forward rather than go back, I find. You've also got Gustav Brunner, who is our current designer. I feel that he designed many of the best Minardi F1 cars they produced. I do rate him, but the game doesn't feel quite the same way. He can go forwards, but again, not hugely likely. And again, those two are significantly cheaper than anyone else. By all means, take Brunner if you can't get Postlethwaite. Alternatively, you can go after the non-F1 guys because, you know, same skill level, why wouldn't you? It's just Brunner's more likely to take a step forward in terms of his development. We're going to offer the Doctor an extra 100,000 a season out of the money, the Deniz dollars we'll call them. We want him for 2 seasons if at all possible. Let's see what he says. He says yes! That makes me happy. So we've got Big Harv coming on board next season, and then in terms of mechanics, you can actually afford to spend a little bit more money here because mechanics are not hugely expensive. Let's see what 3 stars we can get for reasonable money. So Tim Edwards from Jordan seems to be the best value for money at that level. Let's see if we can't get him for 2 seasons as well. It's good to have a little bit of consistency. He needs a little bit more money. We'll give it a round, and maybe we'll make him an offer again. I think that makes some sense. Excuse me, that was gross. That's the beer. In terms of test driver, we're gonna go for either Moriera or Loretti. Maybe I can fold in the driver development program here as well. We'll go for Moriera. I do rate him. We'll take him for 2 seasons starting next year, so his contract will be up the same time as Deniz and Takagi, and that means we can then consider him for a race seat without messing with anyone's contract. Okay, everyone is indeed a winner. Onwards. So, next thing, cars. You'll again see people do testing, and you'll see people making upgrades to their current car, particularly in technology, because you see we've got some reliability problems. Again, don't do it. Don't do it. The best way to take a step forward, same as the Arrows playthrough, is to put all your focus on next year's car. You're going to get a bigger performance gain next year than the incremental gains you'll get this year. And all these things cost time and production capacity to produce. So you're only setting yourself up for failure. Again, key rule, always build all the spare parts you can. At the moment we can only build 1 spare part per round. I've got a way around that. I'm going to show you how that works in just a few moments. Again, driver aids, none of this, we're not going to be touching it, it's not relevant to us. Now again, just bear in mind, our car right now, we don't know if it's 1999 rules compliant, and you won't find out until they announce the rules. Nothing we can do about that, but if we get lucky and the car complies with the rules, then we've gained X many rounds of development, meaning the car is going to be much further along than it would otherwise be. It's always worth rolling the dice in your first season. Absolutely it is. On the commercial side, no hospitality. At least not now. You do need to do hospitality as Minardi in your first season, I feel. But round 1 it's not worth it because you're not actually in active negotiations, so there's no point. I would restrict it to Belgium, Japan and Monaco tend to be the ones that I actually bother to take people to. Melbourne is a good one. You see, it's a 4-star venue, but again, we're not actually in negotiations with anybody, so we're not going to gain anything from it. Instead, we're going to be focusing just on the pure negotiations. Now, team sponsor, they're not going to talk to us. You can try, you're welcome to try, but the chance of getting a team sponsor to talk to you in Season 1 is practically zero. It's not quite zero, but it's basically there. And to prove my point, I'll put 5% of our guys talking to Red Bull, and they're going to tell us to go away. But some of you will be wondering if I'm really 100% sure of that. I am, but you'll see. Now, money sponsors. That's a little bit harder to call. The reason being that you can pick up anyone here. It's just a case of luck. It's about being maybe the only team talking to them. I know Castrol. I see a pattern, and Castrol tends to be neglected in Season 2. But we're not going to go after them. That's more of a tip for if you're playing as another midfield team. The reason we're not going to go after them is that the best we'll hope for from Castrol is maybe 2.2 million at most. We can double that by making them our team sponsor, but again, that's small fry compared to what we pay for something like an engine. Let's see what our current deal looks like. We are currently paying 7.5 million to Ford for our engines. So if we got 2.2 million from Castrol, that would offset that to 5.3 million. I forgot how to count there and speak at the same time. You come here for the quality though, obviously. So that should be immediately obvious. And again, this is something we touched on in the Arrows playthrough. You'll see that it makes much more financial sense for the team for that sum to be zero or to be a positive number. So we need either a partner or a works deal. That may, like, a partner deal may on paper give you no money, but that's not really true because it's saving you 7.5 million. So why would you waste time chasing a cash sponsor when 7.5 million is on the table and you can save that money? So that's what we're going to do. Again, spoiler alert, there are 3 engine suppliers that you need to be speaking to, and only 3. Peugeot, Mugen Honda, and Ford. You speak to Peugeot because they are arguably the most likely to give you a works deal in Season 1. And they will consider a works deal for Minardi in Season 1 fairly frequently. I'm not going to say it's a guaranteed thing. Mugen Honda will always offer a partnership to whoever they're talking to, so they're a good fallback option because they're quick to sign and it's still saving you 7.5 million. And Ford are your other best door to knock on for a works deal. Ideally you want a works deal, but maybe you won't get it. It doesn't really matter how many people I put on different things at this point because we're not going to get any progress straight away. Moving on to tyres, I'm personally an advocate for Bridgestone, so I'm going to open negotiations with them first. I was kind of hoping Michelin would enter the sport, or that we'd get a new engine supplier, but that hasn't happened. Doesn't mean it won't happen in the future. And then in the world of fuels, good question. Let's see where the middle ground is. I'm going to say Agip. They're Italian as well, so we're respecting the team's roots. They're a good balance between the two, and they do offer partner deals. So if we can get ourselves a partner deal, we're saving around 500,000 as well on race fuels and lubricants and all that fun stuff. So everything is set up about where we need it. I'm going to do 1 round in this episode, and then we'll move back to the standard 2-round system for the most part, I think. Sorry, I'll do 2 rounds. I'll make it a long episode. You guys are lucky. Let me just see here. Right. turn everything down. All of it. You don't want wear on your cars. You don't want this to happen. You don't want accidents. You've got 2 pay drivers. One of them's a 19-year-old with no experience. He will bin it, particularly if you're not in the race to control him. So we're going to set that up like that. We're not going to dish out any settle points because getting those costs a lot of money that we don't have. We will run both guys on the hard compound tyre, but that doesn't really matter, and I will tell you for why. And on your pit stops, you want 100% of everything on having the fastest pit stops possible. That's what you want. However, you'll already have seen the problem. It's going to cost us $440,500 to transport the team. That's about half of the money we've got, and we haven't done any testing or anything. Performance isn't going to be great. However, what you've noticed is because we don't have any open negotiations right now, our on-track performance isn't going to impact them. So we have an opportunity here to afford ourselves a little bit of breathing room. So there's 2 reasons why I turned all the performance settings down. You don't have to run everything on 1 or 2 I would recommend, simply to reduce the risk of an accident and to keep your cars in working order through the season as best you can. But even qualifying and practice and stuff will put wear on your cars that you have to spend money to repair. And there is a way we can save ourselves a little bit of wear without damaging our ongoing sponsor negotiations. How? Well, let me show you. Make sure I untick those. Okay, 21 degrees and cloudy with a strong wind, but we don't really care about that. Yeah, that's all good. Right, for qualifying, what will happen is we'll go out on the hard compound tyre with Nakano and Tuero. They will do 9, 12, 10 laps, qualify dead last, and we'll have put a bunch of wear on the car for literally no benefit. We will then go to the race, and we will be lapped, and we will not gain anything. But what if we were to not qualify? We're going to send both cars out on the rain tyre, the full wets, for qualifying. And you can get lucky, you can sometimes get a steward's pass, or your driver can just be in the zone and be fast enough. However, our aim is to get a double DNQ. We want to not qualify. And that means we don't put any wear on either of the race cars, and neither car gets damaged in the race. And it doesn't matter that we didn't take part, because it's 2 races where you don't take part that get you kicked out of the championship, firstly. Secondly, there's no sponsors that we've invited for hospitality reasons who are watching our performance particularly closely. And we can save our spare parts for 1 extra round. We now only have to get the car through 15 rounds. So, why not? Nakano still made it into the race. He was allowed in, he got a pass from the FIA, but Tuero did not qualify. Good boy. So now we're only putting wear on the single car at least. 30 degrees with light rain and a strong wind. Don't know what that means for Nakano, but whatever. We're going to keep him on the standard pit strategy. We're going to come last, I'm fairly sure. Let's see. We didn't actually. We beat a Tyrrell. We finished 12th. Not bad. 3 laps down. However, everyone up to and including David Coulthard in second got lapped by Michael Schumacher because he is the reign master and the Ferrari in Season 1 is incredible. David Coulthard took second for McLaren, 1 lap down. Eddie Irvine, third for Ferrari. Damon Hill, fourth for Jordan. Good result for him. Giancarlo Fisichella, fifth for Benetton. And the final point went to Johnny Newhouse in the Williams. Well done indeed. Pedro Diniz finishing up just outside the points for Arrows, but our own Shinji Nakano takes 12th, and I'm quite happy with that. All we needed was everyone up to and including Johnny Newhouse to crash and die in a fire, and we would have got a point. It's a whimsical thought. Schumacher leading the Drivers' Championship there, Ferrari top of the pile. However, we now get to go over here and see the conditions of the cars, and we don't have that much to repair. Look at that. Isn't that good? Apparently we picked up some damage in qualifying, but it's 1%, it's not even worth bothering with. And we still got car 3 in perfect condition. Now we could repair car 1, remove all the wear, but no point. No point. Now, I said before that we need to bring extra money in order to survive, and the best way to do that is to sell part of your team. And here you get a sale price for each percentage of your team. And what a lot of people tend to do is they come in too aggressively, they develop the car, they run testing, and then all of a sudden they find themselves running low of money, and they come here and they sell at a really poor price. And let me tell you, $10,000 is a really poor price. You do not want to be selling any part of your team at this rate. Sometimes you're desperate and you don't have a choice, but what you need to do is hold on. Don't take out credit. A lot of people do that as well, and you end up paying $500,000-ish. Yeah, you end up paying for less than $1 million. You end up paying $500,000 in interest. That is not a good deal. It is not a good deal. And as long as you have more than 50% control of the team, you can't be fired. So it's all still to play for. You need to be able to have that confidence to sell part of your team and to not feel too defensive over it. We're going to hire ourselves some more construction bods. Let's also see if we can't get Big Mike to reconsider. He does, only for 1 season, but we'll take it. And over on here, we will extend a better offer to old Timmy Boy. He signs, that makes me happy. We've got all our team leads in place, and we're by and large taking a step forward. That is good news. We'll worry about the cars in a little bit. We don't have any testing or repairs to do. We've already built our spare part, so we don't actually have anything more to worry about there. Let's take a look at what we got from sponsors. We haven't heard back from Red Bull. In theory, they might be prepared to offer us something, but I don't believe it. I think they'll probably pull out after next round. We have got a works deal on the table from Peugeot. And we've got a partner deal that's equally difficult to sign as with Ford, so that's a no-brainer. We want to focus all our attention on getting that Peugeot deal. Best result is we get ourselves 10.6 million in cash dollars and free engines. Worst case scenario, we just get free engines, which still saves us 7.5 million a season, so let's make sure that's in the works. We've got a partner deal potentially from Bridgestone, that's good, and a very easy partner deal from Agip, which means I'm vindicated in my decision to speak to them. Vindicated indeed. That's all good news. We're not going to bother taking anyone to Interlagos because it's got no value. That's not my opinion, that's the opinion of the game. Let's see if there's anything else we need to do. There is not. There is not. Just a moment, I'm going to save the game and we will wrap up the episode. Okay, welcome back. We are going to do the exact same thing we were doing before. No setup points to distribute, nothing to worry about really in terms of car setup. We're going to run a Warren Minardi for Shinji Nakano. It's his own fault for qualifying. We will try and qualify here, but we're not going to put the aggressiveness of either driver up. I just don't want to run the risk of them putting unnecessary wear on the machine for no tangible benefit. Even if we finish in front of the Tyrrells, so what? So what? It doesn't actually improve the team in any meaningful sense. Let's do the Samba. 24 degrees, very dry, slack wind. We'll try Nakano on the soft tyres, you know, because what is life without variety? Let's run them both. Yeah, 20th and 22nd, so absolutely no gain there whatsoever. 25 degrees and light rain for race day. We will have both guys on 2-stopper. I think that makes sense. And 19th and 22nd, both cars have a failure. That gives us damage to worry about, as well as all the wear they put on during the race. So you see suddenly why it makes sense to occasionally purposefully fail to qualify. Michael Schumacher continues to lead the Drivers' Championship. I'm sorry, my presentation of the season stats has gone away since we're no longer relevant, but I will fix that for the next episode. We will treat this as if it was the Arrows playthrough. David Coulthard and Mika Hakkinen take 2nd and 3rd right now. In the Constructors, Ferrari have opened up an early lead over McLaren, Williams trailing in 3rd. Benetton and Jordan share 4th, and Sauber are technically 6th on 2 points. Good job indeed. We've made a profit, and we've made a profit by, guess what, not pissing about testing and not pissing about developing the car. We are going to get ourselves another construction bod, and we're going to take a quick look at sponsors, and then I'm going to call it an episode. Yep, they're not going to talk to us. But that does give us the opportunity to spend some of that extra money on a little bit of hospitality. I'll add in Buenos Aires just so for the next episode I can talk a little bit about hospitality, how it works, when you should and shouldn't do it. Normally, as I said, stick to Belgium and Monaco, and then Canada or Japan, I think, tend to be the ones that offer the best bang for your buck. There's no point otherwise. You just don't have the budget to do it, or do it to a standard that isn't embarrassing. Hello, tiny car. Hello, plastic cup. I hope you guys are well. I hope you've been having an awesome time while I've been out of town in Croatia. I know I have. And I hope you've enjoyed your beer. It's been a pleasure to put this together for you, and I look forward to taking it forward. I'll talk to you shortly for an additional Arrows playthrough, and there's also an F1 2016 video on the upload train as I speak. You guys take care of yourselves. Again, don't hesitate to leave your feedback below, and I will talk to you soon. Bye-bye.